coffee all over the place.
You got something short.
It's sitting somewhere.
I bet it's either the, I bet it's a direction.
Look, they're not in the way.
I accidentally had it.
No, that's fine. I brought stuff up here with the wire back.
Yeah, again, it's short circuited.
Must be in that hollow. Must be in here. Now, that was the one that was locked up in the wall. I remember that.
It's going now, I know that.
Huh?
Turn it now. Piece of power. More.
Give it a lot of power.
I'm full power, still short.
Find it up in the side row.
The package on the table there for you.
It's good to see you again, Tom.
Uh-oh. Oh, cool.
Well, I don't know if... There it is.
You want to clear, Ken?
Will you be up for a while? No, I appreciate the call, but I'll give you a call when I get home.
It won't budge?
Crawling through here.
The first up unit, no, what's the missing?
Oh, that was probably the breakthrough.
I turned it off. You want it back on?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it looks like it's bound up. Look at the rods. It's all bound up.
Hold it.
Short.
Hold
It's
it.
all bound up. Hold on.
Yeah, I think the brake shoes are jamming the drivers.
Let me take them back with me, Bob. I'm going to take them back.
All right. I took all the brake shoes off of this one. Let's try it.
All right.
And
I can reach it from here.
I see
Right
that
there.
one that's missing.
Can't move this. You guys figured out what's causing the short?
No, but it's in the side rod or it's in the...
The only thing I could think of is when I put the driver back on, if you change the gear out.
Yeah.
Another thing we need to check is the quartering on the drivers with the gear.
I think they're still out on the train.
what railroad are you planning on making those?
Nashville,
Pennsylvania.
Chattanooga, and St.
Walt
Louis.
Disney Railroad. Walt Disney.
Odds are I got at least one of them not on the track, Jack, so it might draw a bunch of current.
No, it's
Do
cool.
I have them backwards?
No.
They wouldn't go around at all.
I have it backwards.
One's on Penguin Scott. All right, now go.
Got a wire hanging down underneath that one.
I always have a hard one.
It's a tough practice. Tom, did you add those fuel tanks?
I did.
Yeah, those are nice.
Those are just precision scale tanks.
Pull it ahead just a little bit. That's good. Move. Okay, let's try it, see what happens. through there all right. Now you can turn the block off, and there it goes. When he turns the block off, then the lights will go off. These are kits, I built these are kits too. Well, they probably represent something from back in the 60s, yeah, but the kits are probably longer than that already that I put them kits together, I guess, when I still lived down in Madison. And I moved out of there in 95. Yeah, it's probably closer to 30 years ago I built them kits. Yeah, a little on the warm side.
Yeah, it's not bad tonight.
No, it wasn't too bad today. I should have been working outside, but I had too much other stuff to do.
Weren't you looking for a spare part?
This building was constructed, began in 1909, opened for service in June 10th, 1910. And because of the club being here, this building has been continuous use ever since it opened. And very few railroad buildings, especially in this area, I can say it's been in constant use for over 100 years, especially since it first opened up. There's two waiting rooms. We got the larger of the two, which was called the general waiting room, and that was okayed by the Chief Executive Officer of the Frisco Railroad, Chester Platgate. And the other one, the smaller room, which was called, I think, like the Smoker's Lounge or something like that. The passengers used that. But it never seemed to be a lot of people using the trains. There was a nunnery nearby here, which the nuns used the trains quite a bit, mostly on the commuter trains, because this was also a commuter stop for a while in the 20s, 30s, and early 40s. Most of the commuter service started dying out in the late 50s because people were using buses and rail cars to get from point A to point B, basically. And I believe somewhere around between 1960 and 62 is when the last commuter train stopped here. Depending on who you listen to, something like that, because one of our members, his father used to work in the signal maintenance department here back in the 60s, and he said it was in October 1968 was the last time the passenger train stopped here. But Burlington Northern Santa Fe records, they say, no, it was May 1967. So the Big Bend originally was at an angle from the crossing over to where it connects on the other side of crossing Highway 44. But in the 60s, when they were putting Highway 44 in, they took down the homes, closed up Big Bend for a while until they built the bridge over, digging a big trench for the highway to go into. Our current project, the biggest main project, is try to get a new roof on the building, which is over 60 years old. It was last put on somewhere around 1950, and it's got material, which means we have to do some asbestos abatement on it, which is another $19,000 added to the bill just to get rid of that. But we figure it's going to cost somewhere between $55,000 and $75,000 to replace the roof. We've got some people in the city here that's working on projects to possibly do some fundraisers. We're thinking of having like a trivia contest combined with maybe an auction early next year. Got some people suggesting, why not have something where you get people to, for so much money, basically buy a shingle. Some places will have buy a brick for paving around the building, something like that. This would be buy a shingle. You have your name written on it. You won't be able to see it because it'll be on the back side, but it's something you could say, here's a certificate saying you bought this shingle to help save an old building. We'll hold our business meetings back here in kind of our library. We've got a pretty large collection of the model railroader magazines going back into the 30s. We get these things through donations. Some of the members bring them in too, but we've got some other different magazines too, mostly model railroad magazines. But a few of them actually from different railroads. It's not really complete. It's close to it from the years that we've got. The bins hold duplicates that we saw at train shows. If people want particular ones, we might have an issue for them. We've got one hobbyist that he usually tries to catch up to us in train shows, but lately he comes here because he can get them half price if he comes directly here instead of waiting for us to go to a train show. Because 50 cents is about the most you can get on these things. Model railroader was good back then and even now. It talk about how to build different things, how to run your layout. Shows pictures of other people's layouts. This one got the Toonerville trolley that was famous back in the cartoon days, if anybody around that's old enough to remember that. This was a train show in Philadelphia. They cover things like that. Model Railroader magazine, the people that ran that, there were a few people that were involved back in the early 1930s to start the National Model Railroad Association. That helped to get together and make sure that if one manufacturer is saying they're building something at HO scale, that it will be compatible with another manufacturer's HO scale equipment. Because each manufacturer, they thought the gauge should be different, this should be different, that should be different, whatever. And you had problems if you bought stuff from different manufacturers, not always compatible.
Like 5 amps.
It was rough, yeah.
6.
Yeah. How much current is on now? Jack, how much current now?
Around doing like 3.1 volts. I mean, yeah, amps, sorry. My name's Jackson Leong. I am the youngest member here at the club. I am also the locomotive tester here. I have my own YouTube channel called JXP Network. Check it out. It'll be in the description below. I kind of consider myself kind of lucky to be a fan of trains. There are like only 2 other kids that are a member of this club, but one is often very busy and another is at military school. Back in the 50s and 60s, almost every person, young and old, were into trains, but now it's just as the adults are interested. My grandparents brought me here. My grandfather signed up a week after me, and I think last year my grandma signed up, and now all 3 of us are members of the club.
Try that, Jack.
Short.
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 Right now.
Still a short.
Try this one by itself, Jack.
Right. Still a short.
Power.
Short.
Hey,
Short.
back it up. Put it in reverse.
Now it's short again.
Run it forward.
Short.
Okay, try that now. All right, run it.
It shorted again. Most of the time they work, but there are times where it shorts and stuff like that. So, I just read these 2 indicators to let me know if they're an open, which is when the voltage goes up but the amps don't, or a short when both meters go up. Basically, this is just like 50-year-old technology, so it may seem a bit complicated, but each of these lights represent a different block over the layout, and it'll take a while for you to learn them, but once you do, you'll be quite good at them. Right now, I'm in block 17, which is down there by the tunnel, and when I enter the yard down there, I'll be in block 18. These 4 panels here with cap 4, 3, 2, 1, those are for the engineers who will run the trains along on the layout. However, this panel here is for the dispatcher, so he controls these switches, which are over there and down over there. And this one is for the Springfield Loop, which is where that far track is with that boxcar with no wheels. There have been cases when some of the trains have derailed, shorted out, or something else went wrong. A good example is my locomotive, because every time it makes a sharp right, it shorts out, and I have to push it out where it's a bit wider in order for it to move again. The second one has a motor that hasn't been lubricated in years, and when I was here last, it finally gave up. So until I can find out how to get those 2 F units to move, they're just not going to budge. So yeah, for me it's a tie between Train Town and Switch Stand.
They used to have a weigh scale to weigh the baggage and freight that was shipped from here, and they took the platform out and they just put wood beams and boards in there to cover it. In the other room, we just threw a carpet over to hide it, and it's about 2 feet deep in there. And this wall was added sometime in the early 60s. Parts bins, some of them come from some of our members' estates when they passed on. We've got those out, and we've got to finish sorting through and clean it up somewhat. These items, most of them, from here over, including the Marsh Railroad hat, that came from someone's estate. He used to work for the Norfolk Southern Railway, and his kids said, here, you can have these, as well as some other stuff that he had too. Yeah, but we have some of our own hats that we had from 2 conventions we hosted, and some patches too. We're well below national average for a club like ours. For a full membership where you can vote for officers, run trains, and being elected into office itself is $60 a year. We have an associate level for $24. If you don't want to run trains or be elected into office, of course, you don't have any voting privileges either, though. But at operating nights, many times associates still can operate because we need extra help. And for those under 18 years of age are not going to an approved school, there's $12 a year for student. And the earliest age to join varies. It depends how mature the child is, if you can join. But even then too, that child has to have some kind of adult sponsor who is a member of the club and holds a regular membership. Quite a bit. Both of his grandparents are members of the club, although his parents don't have time to come here because they're still working, and sometimes that is issues. A lot of times, yeah, we'll get some new young members, but then they go to college or they find girls or cars or something else or get a job. Then we have to wait till they retire from the come back again. All those things. So, but it's one of these things too. The hobby is good for children from 5 to 95. So. Well, this particular one, we started building in the early 1960s. And we had to try to get it finished because the club sponsored the 1970 National Model Railroad Association convention. They did get it finished in time so they could be on the land tour in 1970. We've added and changed to it. Our 2 yards, the areas we call Springfield and Ozark, those yards were rebuilt about 6 years ago, a couple years apart, because age, we needed to expose more track. In fact, the 1 yard was so badly aged, too many cars were derailing, wire connections are coming apart, and the control panel literally fell apart. So we had to just stop and rebuild everything. Eventually, we still want to get the turntable back in operation again, though. We hoped that we could have the original roundhouse building yet, but we found out it won't fit in the space now. We have to build a smaller one to go in there. One is on the east side that Jerry F., an Illinois guy, belongs to. That's at Mid-Central Illinois Mountain Railroad Club, I think, or something like that. Yeah, the Kirkwood Mountain Railroad Association. I know if I forget them, they're going to kick me because they've been going for quite a while. They're in what used to be Old Henry Huff School in Kirkwood. It's part of Kirkwood's Early Childhood Center now. Just off from Adams, and leaving on Thursdays. St. Charles Mountain Railroad Club, they have a permanent location now finally. They used to be what they call a modular layout and set up different locations, but they have a permanent place now in one of the parks in St. Charles. We've been trying to get something for good, I would say over about close to 20 years. So we bought the building in '94, and we had to renew our incorporation in 2000 because it was expiring, because it was set up for 50 years initially. I worked with a lawyer, taught him stuff, he taught me stuff, we got this thing going. It's perpetual now. And after that was done, I applied for a 501c3 from the IRS, and that only took about 3 months. Less than half the time to get the renewal for the corporation. And since then, we've been trying to get donations and grants and stuff like that to work on the roof. And officially, from about 2004 until now, we've been trying. We've been turned down by some real prestigious places. We learn a lot of corporations in St. Louis that used to be real gung-ho about saving St. Louis history. It's like, who, what? We don't do that anymore, type attitude. And some of them said, stop calling us. And now one of them that used to be big, they're having financial problems and might start selling off breweries. And it's like Cleat Gas, now Spire, they used to be great. They used to give a lot to Channel 9 and also different nonprofits to help save, preserve buildings and stuff like that. They're long gone on doing that. And so is what used to be Union Electric, Ameren now. They're the same ways. And so we got to go outside to try to find something. But we had a nice big family one who the president, out of the blue, contacted us. She thought everything was fine. We did paperwork and everything else. We actually met their requirements because we want the roof to look like how it did when it was built. Well, after their board had a meeting, the board said no. Just flat no. So it's one of those things. You can bend over backwards, you can meet all the requirements for foundations, but they still have the answer. Somehow you have to persuade them how badly it's needed, how much support you got from the community. The city doesn't have the money that we need, nor the business district. It's impossible for them to do something like that because unless we're in Los Angeles or something like that, but that's not the case here. They have big problems themselves. Some little thing like this, we need local support. In '94, nobody wanted to save the building. If it wasn't for us, this club, this wouldn't be here. A few years ago, we met someone who was in the contracts department with the railroad, knew a little bit about us, and he knew what we were doing was good. He told his people, work things out so it's something great for us and workable for the railroad. And the railroad is happy we were here, that we were able to do it and not some other group, because they know that the building probably wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us. The only grant we got was from one of my former employers, A&T Information Systems. They had a foundation for helping nonprofits. And the fact that I work over 100 hours a year for the club, and today it's more like over 300 hours a year because of the things I do, we qualified for a $500 grant. That's the only grant we ever got, and that was over 19 years ago, or about 19 years ago. But we've got matching donations through employers of some of our members. They match the dues or other things that we donate here. We've got one member who works for Boeing. So far we've gotten $800 of donations out of that from Boeing through an employee program. We've gotten about 800 through GoFundMe so far. That would take care of the roof and probably a few bucks left over to do some other repairs and upgrades we need. The Historical Society here loves us. Other people love us. The thing is, they wish too that they could give us more than $25 or $50 or $100 each year than they do right now. But a lot of people know us. We've got 20 other countries besides the United States of followers that we know of through Facebook. So we're still international. A year after we started, we were getting contacted by a model railroad club in Sweden. They started before us. They're older than us. They're still going yet today. We had some contacts again just a year or two ago through them, and none of them remember us. They can't find anything in the records, but we've got letters and stuff for communication we had with them. They had some questions about some stuff. So back in the 30s and 40s, clubs helped each other out because They learned about each other through the grapevine type thing, plus the few model railroad magazines that were out there. They talk about it. And today it's different. Most model railroaders don't want to belong to a club. They won't, unless it's something they go to once in a while and they hear about other people's stuff like that. They'll have their own layout and they might invite friends, but that's it. Clubs are fading out. At one time, we had 5 or 6 good substantial clubs in this St. Louis area. Today, there's only about 3 or 4 viable ones around. Of course, we're one of them. We're the only one locally in quite a few states that we're still in our first and only home. You can't really say Webster Groves High School was our home because we met there, but we didn't build anything there or do much. The high school even recognized it because in the yearbooks, where they usually list under there, you belong to the Glee Club or football or baseball, something like that. Our club members said Model Railroad Club member, our Model Railroad Club president was listed in there. So in the high school yearbook, it was acknowledged that we were a high school club in the beginning. Before it let out for summer, we were in this building in that same year. And thanks to a handshake deal with the chief executive officer of the Frisco Railroad, we've been here ever since. And we got a long-term lease, a title on the building, which fortunately sitting on railroad property, we're still at the whim of what the railroad wants to do though too. But they know that they're satisfied with us here and we'll be here pretty much as long as we want.